and welcome. In this episode, we explore the joys and challenges of full-time RV living after 4 years on the road.
We will share our honest insights about the RV lifestyle's benefits, unexpected challenges, and the lessons we've learned about RVing, travel, and ourselves.
Stay tuned. So the first thing we want to do is share the initial motivations for the RV lifestyle and why we're doing this full time. So for me, ever since I was a kid, I've always loved nature. I was a Cub Scout. I've always liked going out on hikes. I've always watched National Geographic, a lot of PBS specials. I just love everything about that kind of stuff. So for me, it was a no-brainer. Let's do this. How about you?
For me, it was more about breaking my routine. You know, the routine of going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home, maybe going out, coming home. Having just something else to do. And once we started camping, we realized how much was out there and how much more we could do that we really weren't doing.
True.
So breaking that routine was really important to me.
Another reason why we did this was for the sense of adventure. Like I was saying earlier, I'm into Indiana Jones, and I love discovering new places. And in this lifestyle, you really get the opportunity to find all these places you would have never found living at home.
Absolutely. We've done so many things that was never on any kind of bucket list,
Nope.
but I'm so happy we did them.
Yeah, because we experienced so much more than we were expecting, and it's added more to our lives as a result.
Absolutely. So now we just want to talk a little bit about our history with RVing and camping. John and I, when we started dating, one of the first things we did together was go out tent camping. However, we decided we loved camping, but not necessarily the tent part of it. So we bought our first travel trailer, which was a, what was it, a Dutch? No, Dutchman?
Yeah, it was made by Dutchman. It was an Aspen Trail, I believe.
Aspen Trail, that's right. And we loved it. But when we decided we needed to go full-time, we thought we had to upgrade. And so we bought the motorhome for several reasons.
Yeah. Now, for one of those reasons is we figured if we're going to be doing this full-time, we're going to need a little more space. So we went for something the size that we got to give cats places where they can go and have some separation.
Yeah, because we do have 4 that travel with us now full-time.
Yeah.
When we had the travel trailer, we took the 1, but not the other 3. So
Right.
we definitely needed that space. Plus the danger of having to take them in and out of from the truck into the motorhome constantly. I didn't like that.
Yeah, and they didn't like it as much either.
No. So that was one big reason. The other thing is you need to know what your conveniences that you need are. And for me, it was definitely the laundry.
Yeah.
We couldn't put the laundry in the travel trailer that we had, and we could put it in the motorhome. So that was a big consideration.
Yeah, and with that, also sometimes living on the road, you'll come to a campground where there isn't a working laundromat. So you either have to go out of the campground to find a laundromat, or you gotta wait until you get to the next campground. Well, we had a little situation. The one time Mandy went to a laundromat in town when the campground didn't have a working laundromat, and she had a guy harassing her.
Yeah. So we really needed to make sure that we had the washer and dryer. There's certain things you need,
Right.
you know, and you know where your comfort level is. And
Right.
that's different for everybody and whatever camping you're doing.
Yeah. So another important thing that we had for going full time and with our RV and everything was having adequate workspace. So we wanted to have enough room for her to do her job during the day and me to also be able to work on videos without much interference between each other.
And not just for work, like we also watch 2 different types of TV shows, and so sometimes you just need that little bit of separation. We have a fight, maybe we need a break from each other. So it's really good to be able to know your space constraints when you're shopping for RVs too.
Yeah. Another thing that was important when we got this RV was to have a TV straight across from the couch. So we weren't getting any neck problems long term watching TV. you want to have good sound quality coming towards you from both sides, being an audio engineer. So that's just me. She don't care about that stuff as much.
No, but the point is you have to know what the important things are to you when you go to look for an RV, because there's a lot of places where you'll say, I can make it work. You just want to make sure that that's something you want to make work.
Right.
Because you're gonna have something that you're gonna have to compromise. We've been doing this and doing RV tours for how many years now? Have not found the perfect one yet, right? Because there's always something that you're gonna compromise a little bit on, whether it's space, whether it's layout, washer and dryer, things that the RV has, the bathroom. So it's really important for you to understand what are the things you can compromise on and what are the things you're not gonna compromise on.
And on top of that, like she just said, all the tours that we've done, you know, I still love our RV, the layout and everything about it. It's been a good RV for us. It's been through everything I think that you could put an RV through, and it hasn't failed us yet.
Now we just jinxed ourselves.
Yep, we jinxed ourselves. Watch for that video coming soon. RV breaks down, tire flies off.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, right. So now we're going to talk about some of the upsides to full-time RV life, at least for us. What's something to you, Mandy, that's an upside to this lifestyle?
Well, and it's not every day, and it's not every campground, but there are some campgrounds out there and some spots out there that you can wake up to the most magical view. And when you get it, it's so energizing. And it's something you don't experience if you're in a house or an apartment, because your view's the same. Even if it's beautiful, it's the same every day. Whereas, you know, with a little bit of work, we could wake up to a different view every day and have most of them be beautiful. Not all of them, but most of them.
Another upside to this lifestyle is having the freedom, you know, to do things a little bit more your way, you know. Like in our lifestyle, we have the ability to work some of the hours of the day, step away, go do something for a couple hours, then come back and finish up our job for the day. And you don't always get that in the sticks and bricks, so.
No, and the other thing is, you know, you can pick up different hobbies or activities. I never played tennis before. Now we're excited if we get to a campground that has a working, good tennis court that we can use. So you just feel a little bit more, I don't know, in the community in the campground.
Yeah, there's more options of what you can do.
There's usually activities going on, and it's right there, you know. The other thing with this lifestyle is we're seeing so much more and going to so many more places than we would be if we were living the normal lifestyle. Right, because usually you get 2 weeks of vacation, you go to Florida or California. I would have never thought to go to Wisconsin or Little Rock, Arkansas, but we really enjoyed those places, and I'm glad that we did. I probably would have never been there if it wasn't for us doing this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you think about it, you're on a plane, you're flying past all these places that you'll never see in your life. When you're in an RV, you got to drive through these places, and a lot of times you need to stop and rest. So when you're stopping at these places, you're seeing all these new things that you never would have thought to see if you're living at home in a house. So yeah, that's one of the upsides of this lifestyle.
Absolutely. The other thing is the unique experiences that we've been able to have by doing this lifestyle. Really enjoyed things like the Dolphin Research Center down in the Keys.
Yes.
And we may have done that if we had taken a 2-week vacation in the Keys, but maybe not.
Right.
How about you?
Yeah, that experience with the Dolphin Research Center was unique for us because we actually got set up with them that we could come in and film some of the stuff that not everyone gets to see. So when we get to do that kind of stuff, we get excited. You know, like I said earlier about PBS and stuff, you know, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So when we get an opportunity to do that kind of stuff, I really get excited.
And that one wasn't planned until we got down there. So it's that flexibility that we have. Or you plan your trip around a particular thing. Right? Like last year, we planned our trip around the Balloon Fiesta.
Yes. Now the Balloon Fiesta, for me, hands down, that was probably one of the best times of my life. So much that it chokes me up a little bit now thinking about it. But it was amazing. I got to go up in a hot air balloon. That was freaking amazing to me. To be out there and free like a bird, pretty much.
And just, I mean,
and the risk to it.
And the magic of all those balloons being up there and all those people there helping each other. I mean, that was one where nobody was everybody was trying to help each other, right?
Yep.
They were trying to bring the balloons down, making sure everybody had room. It was really the community.
Yes, they have a very strong community when it comes to hot air balloons. And being able to be there also, if you're a camper and actually have a site there at the field or outside the field to watch that every day for that whole week, 9 days or however long it is, that's just amazing to experience that.
Yeah, and we didn't experience that yet, but that's going to be on our bucket list now.
Yeah, down the road.
To actually camp there. But it's those experiences that really, as hard as this lifestyle is sometimes, those are the things that stand out when you think back. You don't think about the blown tire, you don't think about the campground that flooded and you couldn't stay at and you had to scramble or whatever it was.
Right.
It's those experiences. Like John said, that was 2 years ago and he's still getting, a little choked up over that experience.
Yeah, I mean, come on. That was an amazing experience, not just to go up, but to see the camaraderie, the community, how everyone was just so together. It was just amazing to see that.
Yeah, and we had that one thing planned, and then everything else kind of fell in around it, and that's where we got to see Oklahoma City and Little Rock, and again, places we wouldn't have gone.
Yeah, the Petrified Forest National Park, that was amazing to me too.
Yeah. So the flexibility, the spontaneity of this lifestyle that certainly was not a spontaneous person. I'm not a spontaneous person. This is bringing a little bit of that out in me.
And then that leads us into our next topic, which is the RV community. Since we've been doing this, we've come across a pretty strong community here when we're RVing. Most of the campgrounds we come into, people are real nice. If you need help with something, they're willing to help out. And that's something to really appreciate, and I love that.
Yes, and we've made some really good friendships with people that do this lifestyle, and it's amazing how many times you just happen to run into them, even though they're not even from your part of the country. It's a smaller community than you would think it is.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it too. The people you meet, we've made some new friends on the road that we've seen over and over again when we go to these campgrounds, and it's just amazing to have this kind of community and to be part of something like this. This is another thing about the RV lifestyle, whether you're full-time or part-time. You have these activities on the weekends, you have the food trucks, and it gives a sense of community. Right now we're gonna get an ice cream cone. I think I'm gonna get a vanilla cone. I could have a cone of vanilla. Can't fight that. Yummy. But yeah, like Mandy was saying earlier about tennis, with the RV community, you have these campgrounds where you have lots of amenities where you can do different things depending on what campground it is. A lot of them have pickleball. The one we're at now has tennis, so we can get out and play some tennis. There's usually rec centers where they have little parties, every week. They'll have a band come and play, that kind of stuff. Like Easter egg hunts, they'll have car shows, those kind of things that really make it enjoyable in the RV lifestyle.
And we love to see an arcade. I love to see food trucks because we like to eat.
Yep.
We were even in one that had a bowling alley in it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so like it again, this uniqueness of these campgrounds is really special.
There also can be a negative aspect to the RV community in regards to you might eventually find a campground or two down the road when you're RVing in general, not just full-timing, that you come across a campground that just doesn't hit you right. Well, it could be something like the staff are rude, or it's mostly residential and the residential people don't want you around as a weekly camper. They're rude to you or ignore you, or the campground doesn't want you to use one of their facilities or one of the utilities they have available to their normal residential people. So we've come across that 2 or 3 times in our travels, and yeah, eventually you'll come across that as well. There's one that comes to mind that was an Encore Park in the Tampa area. I think it was called Vacation Village, and it's a nice area, not the greatest, not the worst, but like the residential people there, they didn't like people that were coming through as weekly campers. Kind of cliquey. They have their own cliques and stuff, and They just don't want people coming in there on a weekly basis. You kind of got that impression at that campground. So yeah, you'll run across that from time to time in the RV community every once in a while. And you just got to go through it and deal with it, and it's no big deal. You're going to find more campgrounds that are real nice and worth visiting and going back to. So don't let that bring you down at all. Stay positive about it as much as you can. Now here's a myth about full-time RV living. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. You run into issues. We got to work full-time on the road while we're doing this, so there's a lot of the days of the week where we're just cooped up in the RV working. I'm working on videos, or I might be outdoor dashing. Mandy's doing her meetings and doing her job, so there's a lot of time during the week that we're focused on everyday normal life like anyone else that's living in the house. The difference is our house moves, so now we get to do the same thing in a different location, and we get to get out and do things in between, experience new things in life. So yeah, that's kind of where that's at. So yeah, to think that we're out doing stuff every day, having fun every day, is just a myth when it's RV living. Unless maybe you're a millionaire or a billionaire, okay, now you have a reason that you can go out every day and have fun. But we're definitely not like that. One of the things that we won't touch base on in this video is the cost of full-time RV living. Why, you might ask? Well, because it's going to be different for every family and every household. You have a variation of people, you have a variation of pets, you have different things you want to do, you have a different type of RV from one to the next. Only thing I could say is it could be cheaper or more expensive than living in the house, depending on how you approach RV living. So do you have an expensive rig? Do you have something you're towing? Do you have events you have to get to every week? Do you know, it's those kind of things you got to consider. Like kids, do you have kids that want to continue school, you know, like homeschooling? One thing I can say is, since we've been on the road, it has been a little bit cheaper. You know, you don't have gas to pay, you don't have an electric bill, you don't have a water bill, sewer bill, you know, those kind of things. But now you got to worry about using a little bit more gas to get from point A to point B. If you're using a generator, you know, those kind of things. So yeah, it's so many things you got to consider when it comes to living full-time, and it just shows you that there's going to be a lot of cost variation from one family to the next. So we're not really going to dive into that.
And now we're going to talk about the RV, cleaning, cats, and how we tackle all of it. When we were in the house, we had litter boxes on every floor of the house, but now we're down to one, but still have the 4 cats. So it takes a little bit more time to clean. So when we had the house, I would change the litter box maybe once a week. Now we do it at least twice a week, and that is a full clean, a full scrub. So I'm thankful that we have the outside shower, because that does help. But this is a challenge for a lot of people with pets. So we are all good, all cleaned up, and now we just put it back. So one thing we wanted to point out here was just this Lowe's box. This was John's idea. We had one at the house that he made. It was made out of wood. But the Lowe's box works pretty good. It really stops a lot of the litter from coming out, and has helped with the traction.
Now the one that we had at home was in the shape of a castle, and we called it the Kitty Poopy Castle. Insert other word because it rhymes better. When it comes to cleaning when you're living on the road full time in an RV, some people have the misconception that it's easier to take care of everything. You don't have as much to do. And that can be true in some cases, but in other cases where you have pets, there's going to be just as much, if not more, cleaning you got to do every week. So when we lived in sticks and bricks, we clean once a week. Everything will be good. And here, we got to sweep several times a week. The cat's hair cakes to everything. So to keep that down and to a limit, you gotta sweep the floors, you gotta wipe down the walls, the screens, you can take a vacuum to them. And it's just a lot that you gotta deal with in that respect, keeping up with pets when you're on the road like this. So a quick thing to point out, a lot of RVs have slides in them, and it's hard to get underneath them to clean them properly. But when you have pets, you're gonna have food crumbs, other kinds of dirt, and a lot of cat hair that gets caked underneath those slides. So you need a tool that you can use to get up underneath these slides. So I'm going to show you something here that might be useful if you don't know about this yet. This tool here is a telescoping broom. This is called the Helio Air Broom. So it telescopes, and it has a flat surface, so it's easier to get up underneath the slides. Pull out the stuff that's underneath. Like if you have big clumps of hair, as you can tell, I try to keep up with this, so you're not going to see a lot of hair coming out right now. I just swept 2 days ago, and this is after 2 days of living in an RV. It can accumulate pretty quick when you have 4 cats. Believe me, I know other people have that amount, if not more cats or dogs in their RV, and they're going to have the same problem with dog hair. Trust me, it can be annoying after a while. I'm a bit of a clean freak, and to have it to where it gets to in here, I'm constantly cleaning. Another tough thing to do on the road is to have an exercise routine. So if you're one of the type of people that likes to exercise on a weekly basis, it's hard to do that when you're living on the road. One, a lot of campgrounds don't have weight rooms. And then the ones that do, they are set up in a way that the equipment's usually different. So then you can't do the exercises that you want to do every time. So I just try to have my own routine that I can do inside the RV where I have enough room that I can do it. And on the nice days, I can do my exercises outside. So that helps out too. But yeah, trying to have a routine, exercising on the road can be hard, especially in full-time RV living. Right now I'm doing a plank. So there's plenty of room to do this. I do active ones too, you know, where I'm doing this. And that can be hard to do in an RV. Another thing I noticed while living on the road is when you're using weights and you don't have a full set. For me, I buy weights as I'm going. So if I'm ready to move up to another level of heaviness with the weight, I try to go to Walmart to pick up some new weights to add to it. Well, doing that, I found out that not all the Walmarts have the same weight sets. So as you can see here, I have 2 different colors of weights, or 2 different types of weight sets that come from Walmart. Another problem is there's other weight sets other from these at these Walmarts that aren't even the same as this, so I can't get the weights to fit on here. So I have to keep looking around until I come across one of these types of weights again. So yeah, when you're on the road, you're not always going to find the same types of weights from Walmart. You can probably use Dick's Sporting Goods, but they're harder to find when you're on the road than Walmart. So yeah, so just keep that in mind if you're someone like me that likes to work out on a weekly basis.
No matter how good you think your relationship is, an argument with your partner or your kids is inevitable. Remember, the walls in an RV are super thin. Your neighbors can likely hear everything, and there's no real place to escape or get some distance. And when things get heated, it feels like the whole RV shrinks, and your world already feels small. Every word feels louder, heavier. It's usually when I take a walk. You can find a place to gather your thoughts, calm down, and either forget about it or reflect on it. Just a few minutes outside. And it's not about running away. It's about resetting, breathing, letting your thoughts settle before you say something you'll regret. It gives everyone a little bit of time to step away. It's a great strategy if you're living small or you're in a house or an apartment. Take that walk when you need to. Protect your peace. Talk when you're ready, not when you're overwhelmed, because that's usually when you say something you don't mean, or you say something you mean, but in a way that's hurtful to your partner. The great thing about being in a campground, you usually have some pretty great views. This helps to distract you and helps you to regain your peace and your perspective. And now you can appreciate the life you're living and maybe forgive a little easier. So step away, take that walk, and breathe. So, I mean, there are some problems with this lifestyle, or some challenges, I guess. Relationships with friends and family can be difficult. They don't support what you're doing, don't understand what you're doing. Or if you had let's say a tight friend group that you got together every single week and now you're gone for 2 or 3 months at a time. It can be very difficult.
Yeah, it can strain relationships if you don't have friends that are in the community as well. And we've noticed that we'd like to spend more time with our friends, but we don't always get the opportunities.
And then when you get back home, right, everybody wants to see you and you're trying to make time for everybody in your life. It can become stressful.
So now we're quickly going to talk about the difference of full-time and part-time RVing when it comes to setting up and breaking down. So with part-time RVing, you're doing it several times a year. So it's not that big of a deal. When you're doing it full-time, now you're doing it 1 to 3 times a week, maybe more than that, maybe only several times a month. But still, you're doing it constantly, so it can get old. Now, I mean, considering that you're doing this full-time, I think you can get over that and look at it as a small negative. It's not that big of a deal, right? So I look at it that way.
So we did also want to touch base on the different kinds of camping and what we really prefer. Obviously, there are RV resorts, you've got state parks, you've got rustic camping, you've got boondocking. Our preference really is state parks. We love to be in state parks, but the reality of life sometimes hinders that, mainly because we do want electricity if it's going to be hot to make sure the cats have air conditioning. We have a motorhome, so it's hard to get propane filled or get our black and gray tanks emptied if we don't have sewer at the site. So prefer state parks, but the reality is we usually end up in a full service park.
Yeah, and for me it's the same, state parks, but I also like the top-notch RV resorts, kind of like the Encore parks in the Florida Keys. The one in Miami is not too bad. Some of the KOAs that are top-notch, those kind of campgrounds I also enjoy because it has all those extra amenities that you don't see at a lot of campgrounds.
And that's hard to do full-time too, right? Just because of the expense.
Right.
I mean, years ago, camping in these sorts of places was cheap.
Yep.
It's not so much anymore.
Yeah, especially these top-notch resorts. You're paying a nice amount of money for these locations.
So this might be your most challenging space in your RV, as it is in ours, the kitchen. So a lot of times, weekend RVers tend to cook outside, grill, but when you're full-time like we are, we end up cooking a lot. We use our oven a lot. And the kitchen is really a challenging space at times. You don't have all the necessities that you would in a sticks and bricks. You don't have all the appliances that you might have. So you might have to compromise on the things you bring with you, and definitely have to compromise on the space that you use.
So now we're going to talk about buying stuff when you're living full-time on the road. So obviously when you're living on the road, you don't have a lot of space to put everything. So you have to keep that in mind when you're visiting all these new places, that you can't be going crazy buying stuff because, well, yeah, you're not going to have a lot of places to put it.
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing and a curse, right? We figured out how to live without all the stuff that we used to have, but you've got to make decisions. When you go to buy a t-shirt, does it fit in the closet or do you need to get rid of something? So everything needs to have a place, and sometimes you just got to make decisions.
Yeah, that's one of the trade-offs with this lifestyle. You don't get as many possessions, but you really get to see a lot more things in life this way. The
other thing that we wanted to really talk about was traveling with pets. I know a lot of people have dogs. We happen to have 4 cats. We had them before we decided to start this lifestyle, and obviously they came with us. And they did really well. I'm very proud of them.
Yes.
But there are things we can't do because of them, and there were certain things that we did, like the rig we bought, we really had to take into consideration what their needs were. But things like we can't go anywhere else for the weekend because we're not going to leave them in the trailer by themselves.
Right.
You know, John and I would love to go on a cruise, and we've been talking about that lately. But what are we going to do with the cats?
Right.
So
we would have to have someone come watch them for us in the RV, and because we're on the road in different states all the time, we don't know people in every state. So yeah, it takes away from that aspect.
yeah, and I just think it would be hard, right, to not know that they were being taken care of. There are fur babies. So the pets, that throws a whole other thing into it.
Yeah, so we got to keep that in consideration with our cats. Another thing about living in an RV with several pets is they like to take your seat at times if they're little kitties like this one. Huh, Luca Bear? So now you gotta fight for your seat constantly when there's only a limited amount of seats in the RV. Huh, Luca? Is it nap time for you, Leia? Guess not if I'm bugging you, right? Ooh, stretch. Hi. Big yawn. What are you doing, buddy? You're falling asleep. Looks like you're waiting on a call from a hot date, huh? Don't fall asleep, buddy. You might have a good time tonight. Ah, big guy. Wanna play? Okay, we'll play some string. Okay? Get that string. So yeah, it's important for us to get in this playtime with the cats when we're on the road. We do have them around us all the time, so you know, cats are when you have 4 of them close together. It's like a competition, they want attention. So, they keep us busy when we don't have something else to do. Huh, Luca? So now we're going to reflect on our personal growth and self-discovery while traveling on the road full-time the last 4 years. For one thing, when you're traveling like this, you learn how to eat different things because when you're from certain areas, there's certain brands you like that might not be in other areas of the country. So for example, with me, I like drinking iced tea all the time, and there's a certain brand called Swiss that we can only get here in Harrisburg and York, PA. So when we're traveling abroad, I've had to learn to drink other brands of iced tea. And as a result, you know, there's other iced tea out there I like now because we've done this. How about you, Mandy?
I think adaptability is like the key to it, right? Like we've had to learn how to be more resourceful. We use less, I don't know, electricity, for example, when we're boondocking. Something we really didn't have to think about when we were at home.
Right.
But you've got to learn to adapt and adapt to your surroundings, and that might be a different state, it might just be a different area. But yeah, there's definitely some things you have to do to adapt to be able to do this kind of living. You also have to, you know, think about your rig and what your rig can handle. Again, capacity of the tanks is a consideration.
Yep.
If it's too cold, our water heater freezes and then breaks, so we've had that a couple of times. So
Yep.
if it gets below freezing, we may have to use the campground facilities, which isn't our favorite, but it's something you just adapt to and decide you have to do in order to have this lifestyle.
Right. Totally agree.
The other thing I think is a real appreciation for the outdoors that I don't think I had before. You know, hiking, kayaking, just going out for a nightly walk wasn't part of my daily routine, but now it is, and I love it.
Yeah, exploring all these different state parks we never heard of in all these states. I mean, there's hundreds of state parks in every state, so it's just amazing all the stuff we're missing when we're living at home.
Yeah, and some of them were very close to home, but we never went to see them until we started doing this.
So yeah, it's amazing how RV living, whether it's full-time or part-time, gets you out and about. You get to see new things, visit new places, experience new things, and that's really what we love about this lifestyle, you know? So for us, we're really enjoying this lifestyle, and we plan on continuing to do this kind of thing, you know, living on the road for a period of time, you know?
For as long as we can.
Yeah, for as long as we can.
Or as long as it's feasible.
Yes. So yeah, with that being said, we're definitely going to continue doing this, and we thank you guys for watching this video. We hope you found it helpful. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button.
It really does help us out a lot when you subscribe, so please. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means the world to us.
And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comment section below. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. To watch more videos like this one, then watch one of these videos.